Hello, in this video I'll give you some insight behind the creation of my UI that includes what add-ons I'm using, how to download it, and my thought process. I will also go through my macros and give you some tips on what I find useful. Okay, so I have a lot of quality of life add-ons. The first one is NPC scan. It's very useful if you're farming rares. The next one is action bar saver, which is also very useful if you have more than 2 actions bar setups. After that, it's add-on control panel, which gives me the option to turn add-ons on and off without relogging. After that is an add-on I use on my Warlock and Boomkin, so I won't go into details. Ask Mr. Robot is another very useful add-on. I find Ask Mr. Robot very useful if it is used correctly, that is, and having an add-on to easily highlight what changes to my gear I need to make makes everything easier and faster. I have Atlas Loot too, another nice little add-on. Actionator I use to easily buy out and sell items on the auction house. Bag None gives me the option to create one big bag instead of 5, which I like. Okay, so next up is Bigwigs, a very useful raid add-on. Some people prefer using deadly boss mods, but I've been using Bigwigs since Firelands and I've been happy with it. After Bigwigs we have Botanificate and Maskew. They give me the option to skin my buttons. I use this add-on for both Tell Me When, Raven and Dominoes. Chatter is also a very nice little add-on. I use this to customize my chat window. After Chatter it's Click, which I use on classes with combat res. It gives me the option to simply right click a frame to cast combat res. Currency Tracker is a simple add-on to support Bagnan, which will show my currency in the bottom left corner of my bag window. After Currency Tracker, it's Dominoes, one of my bigger add-ons. I use this to customize my bars. Okay, so after Dominoes, I am using E-Align. It's a simple add-on that gives me the option to put up a grid on my screen while in-game. Gnosis is the next on the list. This is my preferred add-on for cast bars. I used to use Quartz back before Cataclysm, but I like Gnosis since I changed. Little Wigs is a plugin for Bigwigs, which also gives me the option to use timers for 5 minutes. Mirrored UI is an advanced add-on that I use to change the layout of the whole game. To be able to use this, you want to download some files that you put into the interface folder and not the add-ons folder. This will also be a part of the package that I will be uploading to WoW Interface. Okay, so after Mirrored UI, it's Mixed Scrolling Combat Text. This add-on I use to change the incoming and outgoing damage and healing. I also use this add-on to make sounds. For example, I use it for my Pyroblast proc. After Mixed Scrolling Battle Text or Combat Text, it's Move Anything. Move Anything I use to either move or change certain frames. For example, I use it to change the position and size of my boss frames, as well as remove my target and focus buffs and debuffs, because I use Raven to make both of these, which I will go into details on later. Next is OmniCC. It gives me timers on my bars and trackers. It's very useful. After OmniCC I'm using One Click Buyout. It's a very small and handy add-on that makes shopping less painful. Photo Robot is an add-on that shows CCs and big cooldowns on target and focus frame. I find this very useful, not only for PvP but also PvE. After Photo Robot it's Postal. It's a small add-on that makes handling mails easier. Questomatic is a very nice and easy to add-on. It makes me be able to turn in and accept quests instantly. It helps a lot with server first leveling competitions, and is also in general a nice little add-on that makes leveling and dailies easier. So next on the list is Raven. This is a big one. I use Raven for a lot of buffs and debuffs. I use it to track my defensive cooldowns, utility buffs, target and focus buffs and debuffs, and my own debuffs. After Raven it's Sexy Map. I use this add-on to customize my minimap. After Sexy Map it's Skada. It shows the damage and healing meters. Very useful. Then I have a small little add-on called Target Percent. I use this to get movable percentage HP on both my target, focus and boss frames. After Target Percent it's one of my favorite add-ons. It's Tell Me When. I use this for a lot of buffs and debuffs tracking. It's very, very useful. I would definitely recommend it. Tidy plates is another very useful add-on. It gives me the option to show my debuffs on the nameplates. Thread plates is a plugin for my tidy plates. It gives a nice smooth skin and also have some other advantages. After thread plates, it's tip tag. I use for tooltips. It gives me the option to customize and position my tooltips as I please. Touchy media is a package I use to get some of the textures and skins that I use. The last on the list, another really great add-on, Weak Hours. I use this for every texture I have and encounter related stuff like buffs and debuffs. Another add-on that I use, but it's not on the list, is Clean Icons. It gives my icons a smoother and more interesting look. Okay, so these are all the add-ons that I'm using. Now let's get into the game and look at some of the more interesting stuff. Okay guys, so now we are in game, and I will be showing you the first add-on that I want to highlight, which is Tell Me When. I want to give you some details on what I have done, my decision making, and why I like it so much. What can it do? Okay, so I'm gonna bring up the Tell Me When. And here you will see a lot of different things pop up, which I use. Okay, so the first one I want to highlight is All the Time. Why do I have All the Time in the middle? The reason I have All the Time in the middle is because All the Time is a stance. It's something you are in, which is gonna change when it runs out. You want to know exactly when you're in it, so I think it's very important that you highlight it, which I do by having it on my character. I cannot miss knowing if I have All the Time up, which is very nice. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna be talking about is my target and focus debuffs. These are gonna show up on after, like these are identical. This is my target and this is my focus. Focus and target. Okay, so the first thing is Pyromaniac. It's the debuff that I apply from using my bomb. Next to that, it is my bomb. It's either Living Bomb, Frost Bomb, or Nether Timid. It's gonna show all three of them depending on what I have active. Okay, and on this Tell Me When icon, I have applied a event, which is gonna show up when there's less than 2 seconds left of the duration. It's gonna make an activation border, which is gonna make it very visible for me to see. Okay, I need to refresh this now, and that goes in general for all my tracking stuff. It's gonna show that. So that is my bomb. Next to that, it's my Pyroblast. I've just recently started tracking my Pyroblast. There's some situation where it comes in handy. For example, on a console fight, I want to know if I have it up on one target or more targets. It's very nice. And again, the same thing applies. It's going to show an activation border if there's below 3 seconds left. The last icon is Combustion. I do not have an event because I cannot refresh my Combustion. Either it's on or it's not. So there's no point to add that, but of course it's important that I show it. And the only difference between my target and focus is the unit it's watching, which is the target for all these 4 buffs. You can see the target, where on these 4 buffs it's all focus. Everything else is the same. Okay, so next is right above that. I have 5 different combustion and living bomb timers, and you might think, what the hell is that? Okay, so on these 5 living bomb buttons, I track the bomb. Well, this is living bomb showing right now, but it would be anything depending on what I have active. This is gonna show up on the boss frames, and many people, also high-end raiders, do not think of this. They do not either know about it, that it can be useful, or they just do not find it needing, and that's fine, but I think it's very nice. When it comes to some encounters, it's very awesome that you can see if you have your bombs or your combustion in this situation ready on tracking on the boss. Do I have living bomb on all 3 console mobs, or do I have like Nether Tempest or Agony or whatever the fuck it is on all the bosses, or do I not? If I do, awesome. If I don't, then I will know and I can apply them. So I really like this. And my boss frames will be right next to all these, of course, but it's not showing because I'm not in an encounter. It's kind of hard to give an example on my raid frames. If you go to some of my kill videos, you will probably be able to see it, but it won't be with this UI, so it's changed a bit, but that's fine. And also, one of the other advantages by doing this is because I'm using the mouse over macros, which makes it even easier to just mouse over the boss that I want to put up living bomb on, click my macro that applies living bomb on my mouse over, and move on with your life. I'm not gonna go into details about my macros yet, but that's gonna be later in this video. But it's very nice. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna be talking about is this thing in the middle. What the hell is this? Okay, so there's a lot of things like on top of each other and what the hell. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna be talking about is this bar you see here. This is my procs. I call this my proc bar. I have all my procs. I have my tailoring. I have my Tempus Rapid from my Meta Gem, and I have my Jade Spirit from my weapon. Next to that, I have my two trinkets. I have my two trinkets. In this case, I have a lot of trinkets because I use this on my alt as well, and it's been some, like Breath of the Many Minds is the one from Breath of the Hydra from TOT. Mastermind, the same thing applies. It's also from TOT. I use that now, but yeah. Then I have Search of Dominance, which is my PvP one. Then I have this one, which is on my alt, the one from Malkorok, the Cleave Trinket. So all these things apply, and again, it goes on. Like I can just put up another buff. Do I want to track something else? Do I have another trinket I use? I can just add it, and it's gonna be showing up. The only reason it's like a time watch is because it's not set to something yet. I could put in a custom texture right here. If I write Mastermind, it's gonna show my trinket I have on now, but then if Breath procs, then it's not gonna show the Breath icon, it's gonna show the Mastermind. So I do not want to do this. By having it as I do, it's gonna show up whatever it is that's gonna be on. So it's only when I have my tell me when options up, it's gonna show as a watch. And this is the same for the other one. This is the second trinket, Toxic Power in this case, and the other one, which is the one from the Yashirash one from Garrosh. I do not have this on this one, but I have it on my old mage. Next to that, I have my Jade Spirit, my potion, my racial, and if I am playing Frost or Arcane, it's gonna either show Icy Veins or Arcane Power. In this case, it's not gonna show anything because as a mage, I do not have a buff from a cooldown. So I'm only gonna be showing all these icons as a mage. This one is just there because then I do not need to change anything depending on my spec. Okay, so right above that, what do I have? I have my Bloodlust / all the other sort of Bloodlusters. I have Heroism, Time Warp, Ancient, and Drum. It's just gonna show up here depending on which one it is. Right now it's showing the Bloodlust icon, but it will change depending on what I have. It could just as well have been a watch. Next to that, I have my first additional tracking icon. I use this because it gives me the option to have something different depending on what I'm playing. On my mage, I will show the Forset, which is either Fury Adept or Profound Magic on Arcane. So this will show up here. And this on my Warlock, I could be using anything. For example, on my Destruction, I'm using Fire and Brimstone. If I have the buff available, it's gonna show it right here. So it's very easy. So, and it goes over for all classes. I can use whatever I want. Next to that, I have my 2 set for mages. Potent Flames. This is another additional icon I can use for anything. When I'm a Arcane, it's showing my timer on my Ring of Power. So I'll know when I need to cast the first one. And on the other side, the opposite side, it's gonna show ring number 2, so I can have multiples up. Very nice. In the middle, I have 2 icons together. One of them is the Invoker's Energy, the buff I get from casting Invocation, or Evocation even. It's gonna show up right here. If I take off tell me when, you will be able to see it. Bam, it's right here. The other icon you see on top of that is when I'm in combat, this is gonna show up. It's gonna show as if the buff is not activated. If it's absent, then it's gonna make another activation border, and it's gonna be highlighted, and it's gonna see bam bam bam, you need to activate Invocation, you need to do it now. It like pops in your eyes. I really like that design that I made. So that goes on for all 3 specs and all my classes. I have different things here. For example, I would have the Haunt buff apply. Like, do I have Haunt on my target? Then I would have it here on my Affliction Warlock, and I would have Conflagrate if I was playing Destruction, and so on. Next to that, I have Skull Banner and Stormlash. Very important to track external cooldowns. Like, if you really want to minimax, you want to know when the fuck this shit is up, and if it's not up when it's lining up, you need to call it out. Like, if the warrior is using it at like a wrong time, maybe he's saving it for something stupid, you need to say, okay bro, you need to put it now, because this is when we have 3 minutes coming up, or whatever the case is. Okay, so right above that, I have my missing buffs. If I do not have my Molten Armor activated, it will show. You can see it here, very easy, and it goes for the same for my spell power buff. So if I apply it, bam, it moves. If I use molten armor, this could be any of the 3 armors, it's gonna remove as well. So yeah, that is all for Tell Me When. Oh, actually I need to show you my ICD. As you can see, 2 icons here below my procs. This is ICD. I use this for my trinket on my alt. I do not have any ICD trinkets on this one, but I do on my other mage, and I do have for my tailoring proc, which I have here. So the button you see here in like the other frame is the ICD tracking. This will never show up when the other one is activated, because whenever the proc is up, it's not going to be showing, and whenever the proc is not up, this is going to be up if it's on ICD. So it will show me when is it available again. And the same goes for the one next to it. It's going to be my second trinket. So when I get the Immersius trinket, I will be able to show that here. Very easy and very nice. So that is Tell Me When. Okay guys, so the next add-on we will be taking a look at is the Raven. Let's bring up the menu. So I'm gonna unlock everything so you can see what I'm using. Okay, so the first thing is debuffs. I think the default UI brings too small debuffs. I want to have them bigger so it's easier to see. And I also added a red border around it to make it more visible. After my debuffs, I added my defensive cooldowns and my utility. So if I have pain suppression, or a barrier, a smoke bomb, or even a temporal shield, or my greater invisibility, it's gonna show up here. And above that I have my utility. This could for example be burning rush, or icy veins, or whatever, or icy flows of course. Stuff like that will show up on the utility. If I give you an example, I could use a temporal shield, and you will see it here. Of course I have all this test stuff here. This won't be here the normal situation. It could also be ice block. Bam, it's gonna show up here. Okay, and utility, as I said, it could be the other stuff. Could also be the normal invisibility, but the greater invis I'm tracking as a cooldown, a defensive one, because it, you know, reduces my damage taken. Okay, so after that I am using the target buffs, target debuffs, focus buffs, and focus debuffs. I'm doing that because I can change the layout of the buffs and how it shows. If I do this, it's gonna show how many I have. I have 15, it's gonna go all the way over here. Well, it's not, because if I do this, it's gonna show all the way over here. And the same goes for my debuffs, my focus debuffs, and so on. It's gonna track it like that. And it even tracks more. It doesn't show more than 12 buttons in this case, but it will go all the way down here. So I like that because of the default UI brings, I don't know, but the buttons are just different, and I like it this way. And I can change the layout as well, and I can change how the stacks are shown or the timer is shown. I just like it that way. So I've done that, and that goes for those 5 things. So that's wrapping up the Raven. It's not a lot, but it's some very important stuff I use it for. So next we will be taking a look at the weak hours. Okay, so let's open up the menu. Okay, so in weak hours I'm using this for a lot of different textures. Right now it's showing a lot of it, but I'm gonna go through them one by one. Okay, so the first one I have here is my arcane charges. When I'm playing arcane, I wanna know how many charges I have, because that's, you know, what the rotation builds on. So instead of having some small icon, which is a debuff as arcane, showing how many charges I have, I thought I would make it into a texture showing like combo points. I would have it like a rogue. So I think that's really neat. Next thing is for my fire mage. I have an ignite frame showing the duration of my ignite. It's nice and slowly counting down, like if it reaches this, there's no ignite on the target. Very nice. On top of that, in the middle, it's not showing it correctly right now, but I would have my ignite damage. So I got a string. I found it online. I haven't done this myself, so credit to whoever did. And it's gonna show up in different colors depending on the damage of my ignite. If my ignite is higher than 70k, it's gonna be a yellow. If it's higher than 200k, it's gonna be a green one. Then like the font is gonna change and it's gonna be green instead. So that's nice. Instead of using combustion helper or some other add-on, I like it this way. It makes everything easier. So another thing I'm using is my buff, my timer. If I have a pyroblast activated, or like I have the buff, I'm gonna be able to see the timer. It's gonna, like, if I know I'm gonna need to cast it, let's say there's some reason I cannot cast it, I'm stunned, the boss is disappearing, it's coming back soon, I will know will I be able to cast this. Or if I'm very unlucky and crits, I will know if I need to cast it in the last second before it runs out. Another thing I'm using is my presence of mind. I have added another texture outside the pyro buff, which is shown in here. This is gonna show my presence of mind buff. A lot of people are asking how did I do this, but this is with weak hours, and I'm a big fan of this. It's very awesome. So if I go out of weak hours and I use presence of mind, bam, you can see it pops out. This is outside. This looks really good when I'm about to use my combustion, for example. When everything is up, it looks really neat. So I really like that. Okay, let's open up again. So another thing is I use if I open up Tell Me When, I use weak hours to show the stack, because I think Tell Me When shows poor stats. It's stacks. It's not showed up very nicely. And because if I use this as an example, which is the Garrus trinket, which I have on my alt, the stack you get is not the same buff as the timer. So if I want to show the stack, it's gonna be a different icon than if I want to show the timer. So by doing it this way, it's gonna show both in one. So I think that's awesome. I have the stacks in the corner, and then I have the normal duration. If I go in here, you can see the duration is called Wrath of the Darkspear, and the other one called Wrath is just the stack. So that's why I'm using it. Okay, so I got introduced to weak hours because of mechanics. For like a year ago, I got introduced to it because I wanted to have certain things for my mechanics. On fights, if there was like a debuff I would get, I would use this to do it. First of all, it's very nice because you can share it with your raid members. You can just, like if it was an item, I can do /say, and I can do Mark of Anguish, the one you get on Fallen Protectors. I could just shift click it and put it out. So now it's in the chat. I would be able to, if I go to this, I would be able to take it and share it with my friends. So that's one of the best things about weak hours. I really like that. So I have all the things from tier 16. I have added in 3 different tiers. It's tier 14, tier 15, and tier 16. It would never show up like this because I would never have more of them on me at the same time than maybe 2. So they would maximum show all the way to here. So this and this would be the 2 first icons. So I think that's really awesome. So that's it for weak hours. As I said, I have a lot of other things for other classes. I have my soul shards, I have my reign of some different things, my rage buff for my warrior, and so on. All these things have not been updated for my new weak hour, for my new UI, so it's a bit smaller and I haven't had time to change it yet. Same for my, actually my cane is updated, never mind. Okay, so another thing I use weak hours for, which I think you guys should know about, I use it to add text. A lot of people would not think about this because it seems you would just not think about it, but it's actually a really nice idea because this is for the Klaxi progression on heroic. I would have the order. A lot of people would be like, wait, what's next? Who will be killing after Corvin, or who will be killing after Locust, or whatever. This is really nice. I would have it in the corner, like right above my raid frames, like here, and it would show me, okay, we killed Bloodseeker first, then we killed Dissector, and so on. This also goes for Black Fuse. I would have my order of where I went up on the build, what do we kill on which build. So that's really awesome. A lot of people do not think about that, but that's awesome. If you want any of my weak hours, you can always whisper me in-game, or you can PM me on my Twitch, on YouTube, or whatever, and I will share my strings with you, if you want anything of it. So that's of course. Okay, so that's weak hours. Next we're gonna take a look at Gnosis, my cast pass. Okay, so let's open up the Gnosis menu. So we have all the bars here. I'm gonna unlock them so you guys can see what they look like. Oh, there we go. Target and focus. So you can see the target and focus are above their frames. The red border indicates that it is not interruptible. I have my own cast bar right here in the middle, and I have my pet below my frame because my pet frame is also down here. So I really like that. If I cast a longer spell, guys can really see what it looks like. And of course it's on top of everything else, so I have all this lined up very nice. And my focus and target over there. Okay, so there's not a lot to explain, there's not a lot of small tricks and nice stuff, but I thought it was still worth mentioning how I do my target and focus and my own frames. So that is Gnosis. Up next we're gonna see on my dominoes how I set up my bars. Okay, so let's bring up the dominoes menu. Gonna put the bars as visible. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna see here is I have my extra action button right here, together with the vehicle button, leave vehicle. These two are never gonna be shown at the same time. So I have put them on top of each other because they both fit very well here. Below that I have my pet auction bar. It's gonna show the first 8 buttons of my pet spells. I don't need any more than 8 on neither my warlock or my mage, so that's fine. Below my 3 main bars I have my encounters, which is gonna show the progress of like the corruption on Shaft Pride or whatever it is. So that's gonna be shown down here. Above that I have 3 different bars. I have my 2 main bars, these two, which has just shown random shit that I was used to before. I didn't want to change too much on the buttons. It doesn't really matter. I have like some small cooldowns like my Dragon's Breath, my Ring of Frost, and I have my Hellstones and my Pots, stuff like that. And then on the top one, which is a bit bigger, I have all my cooldowns. On my old UI I was used to having big fat cooldown buttons, so going down to this size I had to get used to. So that's why I needed it to be a bit bigger than the 2 other bars. So you can see I have my 5 main DPS cooldowns on this side. It's actually only the 4 ones, because this one can change depending on what spec I am, so it could be Icy Flows, and I wouldn't really consider it as a DPS cooldown. It's only as Fire, where Presence of Mind is actually DPS boost, so to speak. Then I have the middle one, which is always gonna be an essential cooldown. It's gonna be, depending on what spec I'm playing, as a Fire Mage, it's my Inferno Blast. As Frost it's my Frozen Orb, and as Arcane it's my Arcane Barrage. This goes for all the specs. If I'm playing my Warlock, it's Conflagrate, and other stuff like that. So it's always gonna be some essential for the spec cooldown, which Blizzard usually goes with. So that's right here in the middle. Then next to that I have my 2 AoE spells that has a cooldown. There's no Blizzard, there's no Arcane Explosion, because they don't have a cooldown, so there's no point. But I have these 2, which do have cooldowns, so that's nice. Next to that I have my 3 defensive cooldowns. Some cases this button will not be a defensive. It might be a Cauterize or a Flame Glow, I think. No wait, Cold Snap, sorry. A Cold Snap. So it might not be a direct defensive cooldown, but these 2 will always be. It's Ice Block and Temp Shield. This will either change to Flame Glow or Ice Barrier if I change my talents, so that won't really do anything. It's always going to be the same. Okay, so these are my main things that I show. Then, as you might have seen on my stream, if I do a shift scroll down the default key, it will come up with another bar. On this bar I have some of the combat stuff. I have like my buffs, I have my table, I have mass res, I have some portals and Hearthstone and challenge mode portals, stuff like that. Stuff that I wouldn't be doing in combat. Sometimes I'm forced to buff in combat if someone dies, but that's fine. I'll just shift click, bam, buff, out again. Let's move on. This one is actually shown here. This is the bar shown here. That's why it's not together with the rest I don't use. All this stuff is not shown because I don't use it, except the menu. I use that. I'll go into that in a bit. But this bar is how I change it. It's like modified to show up on the bar number 1, but it's not actually bar number 1. This is the real bar where I can change stuff. On these things I don't use. I have some hidden stuff with some keybinds on it. Actually I don't, but I do on my Warlock, for example. I have my cast bar, which I do not use. I use Gnosis, as you saw earlier. My bags, I do not want to show my bags. On my menus I have them transparent, so it will only show up if I mouse over. And that's the same for these bars. So if I close down the menu, or the configuration mode, I can go up here and I can see these. You can see all this. If I'm like, oh wait, what is my MS? You can see here, okay, I have 42 MS right now. And stuff like that. What is my FPS? It's capped at 60, or whatever it might be. I don't have all this stuff keybinded. I don't have the shop keybinded. I don't have the customer support keybinded. So it's nice to have the option to go up here. And on the other side, I have my other frames. Again, this is to make sure it's not too different from my old UI, because I do not want to get used to way too much at the same time. So what I did was I took the default frames and I just, like the 2 bars I had on the right side over here, I would just put them all together like this, and then I added 2 more buttons. It's kind of hard to see now because there's like tooltips on top and stuff, but I don't really use this. I haven't needed to go over here and do something. I just have it to feel more comfortable with my new UI. So this is probably gonna get removed in a bit. But I don't know, it might get useful. I have like a few cooldowns. I have like remove curse, and I have illusion, the only two cooldowns over here, which I do not have shown other ways. My dagger too, which was very useful in garage progression. So small stuff like this, but I don't actually use it. Okay guys, so that is it for the add-on section of this video. If you have more questions about other add-ons that I use, feel free to leave a comment and I will make another video if there's enough interest for different add-ons that I use. But these are the main add-ons. Okay, it's time for macros. Let's get to it. Okay, I'm gonna go into my specific macro section. This is where I have my main macros. So the first one I'm gonna be talking about is my Arcane and Fire cooldown. This one is my main all the time. It's the one you see here at Q. It's the one I use. It uses Berserking, it uses Presence of Mind, it uses my two Arcane spells, Brilliant Mana Gem and Arcane Power. If I'm playing Fire, it's of course not gonna do any of those two. And last but not least, it's gonna cast all the time. Very great little macro. Second up, we have the Cancel Aura macro. I would advise anyone to have a macro like this. What it does is it's gonna cancel the aura I have on, which is put on here. So you see a lot of players are gonna do like this. This is gonna be their macro. Slash cast Ice Block, looking away from this. So they're gonna have like this. Cast Ice Block right after cancel aura. What this is gonna do is if you click one time on this button, it's gonna cast your Ice Block. Then when you click on it again, it's gonna cancel the Ice Block. Smart, right? No, this is stupid. The reason this is stupid is because if you, of some reason, cannot get this off instantly, if you just click once, and it does not activate for some reason, which could be either global cooldown, or in other cases but Ice Block, it could be silence, or some stuff like that, or if it's on cooldown and you're just spamming it because it's gonna get off cooldown in a second, if you spam this macro, you're gonna get into Ice Block, and less than 0.1 second after, you're gonna get the fuck out of Ice Block again. So if you have a macro like this, you cannot spam it, and if you cannot spam it, it's not efficient. You want to be able to spam your buttons. So doing this is stupid. You don't want this. You want to have a Ice Block on one key, and you want to have a Cancel Aura macro on something else. So if I do this, if I do Ice Block, bam, I'm out again instantly by using my other key. Of course, this means you need to have a different keybind for this, but like you are pro people, I'm sure you can figure something out. Okay, so after that, I have my counterspell. This is just a simple stop casting counterspell. If I'm casting counterspell, that means it needs to be done now, so I need to cancel the spell I'm casting. Next to that, I have another important one. It's called Cast My Bomb on My Focus. Depending on which of these three I have activated, if I have my Living Bomb, Nether Tempest, or Frost Bomb, it's gonna cast that on my focus target. Which... okay, fuck that. Okay, it's gonna cast it on my focus target, which is very efficient. Next to that, we have another focus macro. It's counterspell on my focus. It's the same as the other one. It's gonna stop casting, and it's gonna activate counterspell on my focus. So that's very nice. Again, I wanna make you guys use your focus target a lot. I think it's very nice. You could see my Tell Me When is built around it. I use it a lot. I think it's very nice. I also have a cast on target, on focus, sorry, Deep Freeze. Not very good in PvE. You don't like. This is never gonna happen, like when the fuck would you do this? But I use it for PvP sometimes. So it's nice to have. I wouldn't say you need this in any way, but it's nice to have it if you're like me. I don't know why I have this one, it's kinda useless. Next one is my Freeze. If I'm playing Frost and I wanna have my pet ability called Freeze on my action bar, I need to do it like this because you cannot take the pet spell on your action bar. It has its own separate bar, but I want it on my own, and I want to keep, and this is something I could use in another spec. And this is my first cooldowns. I use my trinket if I have one. I haven't, like, there's no unused trinkets anymore, except like the PvP ones. And then it's gonna use Berserking, and it's gonna cast Icy Veins. Very simple. Then I have my Polymorph again on my focus target. Very useful. You wanna keep having this stuff, so you don't need to swap your targets. If you swap targets, it's gonna be inefficient, so don't swap targets if you can. So this is why I use so many focus. And Ice Block I have stopped casting as well.
you want to be stop casting, because if I want to use my ice block, I want to use it now. I don't want to use it after my cast. So that's why I have stop casting. After that, I have a little illusion one. It's just for the glyph. I cannot get this on my bar without the glyph, so that's nice. And next to that, I have another really important macro. I would advise anyone to have this, especially if they want to have an UI kind of like mine, where they build it around the raid, the boss frames. So if I have this out, it's gonna put it on my mouse over. That means if I have 5 boss frames here, which I will have in some cases, like a council fight, and I do not have my living bomb or whatever it is on the target, I can click this button and it's gonna put it on wherever my mouse is. So if I mouse over the guy, I can do the button, bam, bam, it's gonna do it, it's up again. Very easy, instead of having to target and then I click the target macro like my number 2, and then I have to target back, and all of a sudden you just lost 1.5 global. Stuff like that is inefficient. You want to do stuff like this. Not a lot of people are doing this, so this is really something you can learn from if you want to get used to it. Of course, it's going to take some time, but it's really efficient if you know what you're doing. So if you want to min-max, I would advise you to do it like this. Of course, it can work out without it, but this is my tips. Okay, the next one is kind of useless as well. It doesn't really matter. It's just I used the potion of Brawler's Cunning. It's the one from Brawlers before the other one. It's just, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this one is kind of important as well. This one is my remove curse one. This is a mouse over macro. You know, a lot of healers use mouse over macros. Well, I do the same when I have to dispel someone from the raid. So if I have my raid frames here and I see someone is getting a debuff like on Horidon, I would dispel him without having to target him. Again, targeting means bad DPS. If you have to target someone, you lose your main target, which is not good. So this is it for that. I have 2 macros right here that I use for, I just call it AA because then it's gonna be the 2 first macros. It's gonna be macro 1 and macro 2. These are gonna change depending on the fight we are progressing on. Last time I used them, it was on Siegecrafter. I would advise anyone to have macros like this, because what it does is, if I'm going on the build, I will be able to fastly make a macro saying targeting deactivated missile turret, because if that's the one we're killing the most, it's gonna be this one. And on Siegecrafter there's more stuff like this, so I would add another one that we're killing a lot. In this case I would add these 2. This would go for Raden 2 to add the ads and stuff like that. So you want to have stuff like this. On Garrosh, normally this is control free, the one I'm the macro right here. I would normally have that here, but because I was lastly progressing on Garrosh, I have the sacrificial dagger, which you use there. So I have 2 keys only for mechanic stuff, for encounter related stuff. These 2 can change depending on the fight anytime. You want to have that option. You want to be able to do that so you can have macros and make it easier for yourself. I think that's very important. And yeah, that's these 2. I have another one that's gonna target my mouse over. Focus my mouse over. So if I mouse over my own, or like let's say this guy, if I mouse over him, bam, it's gonna put it up at focus. And then I can target it. Target and focus. Focus, bam, focus, changes, and so on. You could probably do this in other ways, but that's how I like it. Okay, in the last part of the video, I will show you how to download my UI. There's been a lot of requests on how you can download it, and when you get into the game, why does stuff not show up, stuff like that. I will show you why and how you can fix it. So that will be the last part of the video. Okay guys, I have now deleted both my interface and my WTF folder, so I can show you guys how to download and configure my UI. So I'm gonna go into World of Warcraft now, and I will be able to show you that I do not have any add-ons on. You can see everything looks like the default Blizzard frames and everything. Go into interface and you will not even be able to see the add-ons tab. I do not have anything on. I just deleted both my interface and my WTF folder, so I can show you guys how this is done. Okay, so I'm gonna close down World of Warcraft, and then I will go to my desktop and I will go to Internet Explorer. I'm gonna go to WoW interface, where you will be able to download the file. Then I will click on the download. Gonna remove all this pop-up shit. And you can see me downloading it right here. I'm gonna fast forward this part just to make everything faster and smoother for you guys. Okay, so here I have both my files that you can download from my page. It's an interface folder where I have all these files and add-ons. Then it's my WTF folder that you will need to configure. I'll show you how. Okay, so I'm gonna open up my World of Warcraft folder. I'm gonna delete the WTF and interface folder that the game just created. You can see it's only Blizzard. See that the WTF is only Darkspear, Zikito, the guy mage I was just on. So I'm gonna click both these and click delete, like that. Then I'm gonna take my two files and move them into the folder. Okay, so here you can see I have both my interface folder with all these files and my WTF folder, where I am gonna change this one to my account name, which is my name. Then I'm gonna go to your server name and change it to my server name, which in this case is Darkspear, where I have my level 1 mage that I just made for the showing purposes. I have made so you can both take my warlock file and my mage file. In this case I'm gonna take the mage file. I'm gonna name it Zikito because that's my name on my mage. Okay, so that's simple. The add-on folder I'm not gonna change anything with. I'm just gonna let it be as it is. Gonna remove all this stuff. Gonna close it down. Gonna go into World of Warcraft. Okay, and here you can see everything is changed. The layout is changed. The transparency, the color, everything is changed. And I'm on Darkspear. I can go into my add-on folder, and everything is what it should be. I have off the things I do not want, and I have the things on that I want. I enter the world, and we will be able to see if it looks like we want it to be. Of course, I'm on a level 1 mage, so everything will not show up as I want it to be because I don't have the spells yet and stuff like that. But I will make sure that you guys will. Okay, so the first thing I can see is my dominoes is exactly how I want it to be. Everything is like I want it. I can see the tell me when is not though, so something needs to happen here. Gonna go to the profiles. Gonna click on existing profiles. Gonna take the one called lol jeep at like here. This is the one you wanna take. This is the mage one. Okay, so now if you click tell me when, and look at that, everything is showing up. The only thing is you can see both my rune of power and my Fury Adept is on top of each other, and that is because I'm a level 1. That means I do not have a specialization, and tell me when does not know if I want to show arcane, fire, or what I even want to show. What spec am I? The game do not know. And I do not have some spells, like here I do not have my living bomb, so it cannot show it, so it shows a watch instead. But that doesn't matter. If you log in on a level 90 mage, everything is as it should be. Okay, the next thing we can see is my minimap. That's not how it should be. So I'm gonna go to copy a profile. I'm gonna choose the one called Zikito at Drenor, and I'm gonna reload my UI. And the next thing you will be able to see now that we get in is something that I cannot change. Okay, I'm gonna get that off. Okay, I'm gonna go here, and you can see that the target percent will probably not be as it is right now on your screen. I do not know why, but it has not been like that if I have been on another character. The same with the chat. The chat is usually not like this. I don't know why. It's probably like something like if I unlock it, it's gonna be something like this. Bam. And you're gonna log in and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I will show you how you change that. I'm gonna click /align, gonna put it up how I put it up. Okay, so this is what I do. I put it to the corner right here. Like this. It doesn't really matter how accurate it is. It's in the corner, and like that. Okay, so that's how I use it. Gonna lock the frame. You can see SCADA is exactly how I want it. And the next add-on you wanna configure is Raven. Raven is not set up as it should. You need to go into profiles, and you wanna change this to the one called Zikita at Outland. That is the profile I use. Zikita at Outland. Go into setup, and to check that everything is as it should be, we're gonna click on unlock to see if everything is set up, and look at that, it actually is. So everything is set up how it should be. We have my debuffs, we have all the other things working. So that is just great. Everything is working as it should be. And you should be able to enjoy the UI now. Everything should be working. If for some weird reason that it's not, contact me PM me and let me know, and I'll try to help you out.
Okay guys, thank you for watching my video. I hope it helped you out. If it did, please leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would help me a lot. And see you next time.